Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard 100, a video series documenting the culling of my collection from what it is to what it's going to be, and that is a Hard 100 games. Reskinning games is a very interesting thing. I like the idea whenever they take a game like, for example, 5 Minute Dungeon and turn it into 5 Minute Marvel. Or there might be a Ticket to Ride that might get a retheme, or Monopoly is really known for it. But not very often do you see a quote-unquote gamer's game get the quote-unquote retheme. And very rarely do I find that it actually makes me care. Usually when a game gets a retheme, I'm like, oh, I didn't buy the game in the first place, why do I care? Well, that's because they didn't take something as boring as the Lost Expedition and turning into something as baller as Judge fucking Dredd. Judge Dredd, The Cursed Earth by Pierce Sylvester and Osprey Games is a game for you and a handful of people as you dredge across the radioactive wasteland known as the Cursed Earth. For the uninitiated, Judge Dredd is in fact the law. In this world, the judges are judge, jury, and executioner, and they can dispense their particular brand of justice any way that they want. And the Cursed Earth is the radioactive area between Mega City 1, which is kind of like New York and everything else, and Mega City 2, which is California. There's also a Texas city. Ha! We survived. What this game really has you doing, like I mentioned, it's a retheme of the Lost Expedition. All you're doing is laying out a handful of expedition cards, and then you are taking your judges, Dredd, Giant, and Anderson out into the radioactive waste in search for a man called Max Normal who has a MacGuffin virus who's trying to destroy whatever. Normally that wouldn't matter, but we also have some perps in the form of Mean Machine, a robot named Satellite, and some other lady going out to chase them. So you're actually in a race against them to get to your goal. The way that it works is there is a handful of location cards, and you're going to deal out 3 of them to start. You start far away, they start up close, and depending on where Max Normal gets dealt into the bottom 3 cards, he could come up sooner rather than later. But what you're really doing is you have another deck of cards, and you're going to draw 6 of them. And you're going to look at those cards, you're going to go, I don't know what the fuck these are. Then you are going to set up an investigation. The investigation is quite simply you laying out cards in a particular order and then having to do the icons. The icons are, there's a lot of them. Ideally, every one of these cards has one of 3 things going on. You will either have a yellow symbol. That shit right there, that is mandatory. You gotta do that, and all you do is follow the symbols from left to right. Easy peasy, George and Wheezy. And all of these symbols are laid out in the rulebook, which is very clearly laid out. And my one big gripe about the game is I wish they did do what Lost Expedition did and give me just a handy-dandy resource card to be able to reference them instead of flipping back and forth through the book. But once you understand the symbols, it's super easy. So you go through left and right. So this one, for example, whoop, right here, I have some rad sickness. All I do is I have to spend a food, I gain a rad, and then I get to discard whatever the next card in the line is. What is the next card in the line? Well, down here at the bottom, there are numbers, and in the first investigation, which happens during dawn, you actually have to line these up in order, and that is the puzzle. Trying to see if you can get from point A to point 6 without dying. And then once you are done with the dawn investigation, you flip over a little tile, pay a food because you got to eat, and then you go through the dusk. And those are a little more freeform. You get to kind of manipulate those cards without having to pay attention to the numbers. So once again, yellow, you gotta do them. Next, you have the reds. The reds, you get to pick one. Sometimes there's 2 choices, sometimes there's 3 choices. Side note, fuck this thing. And all you have to do is pick one. So for example, you have to fight this dumb fucking dinosaur thing. So you either take 3 damage, you either punch it in the face and then the perp gets to run, or one of your characters dies. And you get to pick the lesser of whichever evils those are. And they're not always all bad. Sometimes they're pretty good. And you get to do one of the things. The last thing you get to do is a blue. These right here are optional. So for example, I can take a rad to get a bullet. What are the bullets good for? Oh, they're good for punching things like that big fucking dinosaur earlier. Bullets are really good for dealing with enemies and trying to get more resources. If you ever have to do the thing that you can't do, you actually take additional damage. Your people also take damage when you have to utilize their particular skill. Judge Dredd is good at mountains. Judge Giant is good at Tasmanian devil language. And Judge Anderson is a psychic, so she is good at sighing. The psychic one, all you do is whenever you see a psychic symbol, you have to draw another card and put it at the end, which actually could be to your benefit. Now, if you do end up seeing one of these little judgy symbols, all that means is that person now takes a damage, which is rough. All your people start with 5 damage, and various things throughout the game could hurt them, including, like I mentioned, the rads. The way that the rads work is you take the little radioactive symbol, put it on your duder, and if you ever have more radioactive than you do health, that person dies, because I guess that's how radiation sickness works. So you are doing all kinds of symbols, but ideally, what you're really trying to do is live long enough to get your little duder all the way to find max normal. And you just kind of have to move them forward by getting symbols of the guy running. Now there is a easy, medium, and hard mode of this. The easy mode has you remove a certain number of cards to make the journey less. The normal mode has you move fewer cards. And the hard mode actually has you drawing from the bad guy deck. There's like 3 cards, and depending on which one you draw will depend on one of the 3 events that happens. I have not even beaten it on the easy mode. This game is brutal. This game is the grizzled levels of brutal. It is indeed a cursed earth, and I haven't won yet. And I played it maybe, housekeeping. We have ages 14 and up. Now the source material is, I don't know, it's pretty brutal. So maybe so. I don't see anything particular in the art that has anything, but you are shooting people and whatever. 30 to 50 minutes. I have only played this game to the point where it's gone maybe 30 minutes, and then 1 to 4 players, co-op, solo, and versus. Now I have only played this game solo, and it is a hell of a solo puzzle. I think I will really, really enjoy it as a co-op, in which you and the other person are working together to lay out the path that you're going to take through the cursed earth. But the versus mode, I have no interest in. We're kind of doing our own paths, and it's a whole, no, I'm never gonna play it that way, but I am gonna play the shit out of this in solo and co-op. Now, you may ask yourself, I don't really know who Judge Dredd is, and I'm not a super big fan of him. I know that he is the law. I know that Sylvester Stallone played him. I know that Carl Urban was Dredd in that one movie. Do I need to know the source material to know this? And I would say, not really. You would just have an understanding that it's a future sci-fi world that might be inhabited by dinosaurs and mutants. Meh. But I will say this sent me down a rabbit hole that things like Warhammer 40k and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure did, to where I have now read a shit ton of Judge Dredd, and I am still reading it, and I'm very much enjoying it. It's a fun, weird world. Judge Dredd is at its best when it's a straight man against the wacky craziness of the world, or when everything is played super, super serial, guys. So, Judge Dredd and the Cursed Earth. It does seem very unfair. The difficulty swings wildly from one way to the other. But when I'm sitting there playing it and I'm looking at everything trying to figure out the best course of action, I see myself getting actively better at the game. I see myself going, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done this. It's not about the cards that are dealt to you. It's how you handle the cards that are dealt to you. And Judge Dredd and the Cursed Earth, I kind of love it. The art's beautiful. I like the components. The inside of the box is weird. This Osprey box thing where it opens like a book. I could give or take that. But I will say that Judge Dredd and the Cursed Earth, you are in my hard 100. I actually really, really enjoy you. I can see how there's going to be expansions for you. The Cursed Earth as a theme is very well implemented. The Judge Dredd theme is very well implemented. They really do a lot, and if you know the source material, you're gonna have a damn good time with it. But if you don't know the source material, it might be enough to get you into the source material. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this, the latest edition of the Hard 100. I have been Billy. This has been The Law. Thank you so much. I hope you and yours are well. This is going on my shelf under here, down here maybe, over here, who knows? Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you and yours are well. Peace out.